Hello, everyone. Leonard Lynce coming live with Alan Hinton from Agree to Disagree. After much delay in fighting, we we now know that Jay should always be the moderator.
Yeah, no doubt.
Always be the one figuring this out.
Anybody who wants to live stream on YouTube, it's a lot more difficult than they advertise.
Yes, man, it was a lot harder, especially when you're old, not all this electronic technology. Okay. Man, okay. So, like I said, I'm Leonard Lynce. You know us from Agree to Disagree. Technology. We got Alan, you want to say anything before we get started?
Just saying, Alan Hinton, A/79, Agree to Disagree, sports politicking, all of that.
All right. So today, me and Alan came up here to discuss Baylor athletics and the scandal that's going on right now. I'm sure many of you are aware of the allegations going on with not just the athletic department, but the school, the university as a whole. But there's been rampant sexual assaults, rapes going unreported, pretty much a blatant disregard for women on that campus. So we touched on this subject a couple of weeks ago in one of our episodes where I believe it was Vincent Purvis. I believe it was his topic. Me. It was yours? Okay, my bad. My bad. So it was Alan's topic. So we're gonna start this conversation. We're gonna let you, since it was your topic before, I'll let you go ahead and start, and I'll respond.
Okay. So my immediate thoughts. One of the things that really spurred this conversation, reports 2 days ago, I think it was, that Baylor was leaning on not firing Art Briles, suspending him for a year, and having him come back. I saw something not too long ago that says they are now negotiating a settlement with him. So it looks like they're not going to have him come back next year. But either way, I think the fact that they're not doing whatever it takes to fire him speaks volumes. I really don't feel like firing just one guy is enough, especially when you've got other assistant coaches who've been on record as being involved in this. You know, they've spoken about this at press conferences and when things were going on. At some point, the university has to really take this seriously. I think, reassigning Ken Starr, who stepped down from the chancellor position, is just going to be a professor, and firing the head coach or suspending the head coach, whatever ends up happening, is a bad look. To me, it says that they really only care about headlines. The reality is, I think if you suspend Art Briles for a year and let him come back and coach next year, most people have forgot about it. You really think about, most people aren't paying attention to college football until the first week of the games, the first week of the regular season. So you're talking about really a year and a half if you were to suspend him for a full year between when the headline dropped and when Baylor kicked off for the first time. And at that point, most people would have forgot what was going on. You'd have a lot of people that looked at it and were keeping an eye on it. But half of them by that time were forgotten it was Art Briles, would see Baylor on TV and let it be what it is. But if you come back, even if you just get rid of Art Briles and you have the rest of the coaching staff, what's the reality? Realistically, what are the odds that these guys are going to change? I think that the NCAA needs to step in one way or the other. When I did the topic, I said that they need to do a show cause for Briles. They need to do a show cause for the assistant coaches. Even if it's not just for the way this worked out and whatever Baylor does, to me, the reality of it is, if Baylor's not reporting these guys' criminal conduct and therefore keeping them eligible to play, I don't see how that's any different than having a guy taking impermissible benefits that wasn't academically eligible to play. To me, you either way have guys who should not be playing that are playing and helping you win games. I mean, Sean Oakman started for 2 or 3 years. He's one of the guys that's been involved in this. If they report this when it happened, which I think he was like a freshman or sophomore, that changes your depth chart, it changes your talent. So I'm not saying they should vacate wins, but to me, this falls in the same category as any other thing that would result in an NCAA violation forfeiture wins and penalization. So they really should look at it. I know they try not to get into things that are more legal than on the field, but the NCAA at some point should step in and start to show that they really care about these schools and what's happening with the people that go there.
Okay. Well, I agree with part of what you said. You know, I don't know how I feel about a show cause for any of the Baylor coaches going elsewhere, but as far as your opinions on Art Briles and Ken Starr and pretty much the entire administration, I feel like, like you said before, they're trying to use Art Briles as a scapegoat initially. I feel like that was disingenuous to me, because they didn't outright fire him initially, which is that was what was reported. They were saying, "Oh, Art Briles fired or suspended until he's fired. It's imminent." When in reality, I believe, such as you said, that they were trying to let it all boil over, because as we see today in society, society has a real short memory. Like take the NBA Finals right now. People saying it's rigged, and people weren't saying that. People are trying to say, well, they weren't saying that last series when Golden State came back with OKC, when that was less than 2 weeks ago, and people were saying that the NBA was rigged. So if you wait a year from everything that's happening at Baylor right now, you wait a year, fast forward a year, I feel like people aren't going to remember. They're not going to look at it as the same. And I know some people will hear that and be like, well, how can you compare the two? One is just NBA being rigged. The other is sexual assault. Well, you can liken it back to Penn State. Everybody was, give Penn State the death penalty. You need to come down hard on Penn State. Joe Paterno has to go. Everybody has to go. Not even a year later, they roll back all those fines, those suspensions, all of that quietly got rolled back, and it wasn't as harsh. The cap on scholarship, the reduction of scholarships, that was rolled back. People didn't even notice that happened. They just got swept under the rug because they were on to bigger and better things. They were on to Ray Rice hitting his wife. That's what they were on to then. They were on to Adrian Peterson beating his child, to child abuse. Everybody was moving on, going to Greg Hardy. Everybody moved on. There's always something new that's going to pop up and be more spectacular, and that's what people are going to gravitate to. I feel like with Art Briles now, when he decided, you know what, I'm not going to take this anymore, because you got to realize he's pretty much done. I mean, he's a legend in Texas. He's a legend, a high school coach and legend. Like, coaches love him, players love him, families love him. So he's set for life in Texas. He's not going anywhere. He's not leaving Texas. You don't have to worry about that. But he's done coaching. No one's going to give him another chance. No matter how inventive his offensive style was, his system was, no matter how many RG3s you put out, or Josh Gordons you put out, or Sean Oakmans you put out, it's not going to be the same, because he's built this reputation on his moral high ground. Well, he's not like Nick Saban, where he's going to take anybody. He's not like Urban Meyer. He's not disingenuous. When you speak to him, he's going to hold players to a higher accountability. And now that this is going on, you don't have that. So he's not going to coach again. At least I believe he's not. No one's going to give him another chance. And why would you, when you have his son, who he taught everything, who's younger, who can do the exact same thing? Now, I believe he'll get another chance, but Art Briles is done as far as coaching. And my main issue that has been brought up is everyone trying to say the NCAA should do something. This is not an NCAA issue. This is a legal matter. They went over 4 years without reporting any incidents of sexual assault. Any. There's not a single college campus in the world that doesn't have at least one sexual assault a year, a semester, a quarter. The sexual assaults are prevalent everywhere. I don't know why I feel like when people hear things like, oh, there was a rape that happened, oh, there was a sexual assault that happened, oh, that doesn't happen on my campus. That's not going to happen at Tennessee. You bring your child to Tennessee, that's not going to happen. Yes, it will. Rape happens everywhere. People have a blatant disregard for women in this society, and it's shown every single day with incidents how the excuses come out, the reasons come out for why it's the woman's fault. You hear sexual assault, and you have people saying, "Well, that woman shouldn't have dressed this way. Why was she looking like this?" Like you take the Brock Turner case in Stanford, which has really irked me because it's not speculation. It's not like Jameis Winston and there's speculation that this girl is saying she was raped and there's no witnesses. This Brock Turner was found raping someone behind a dumpster. 2 people found him and he tried to run away. And he gets a slap on the wrist. And the reason why he gets a slap on the wrist is, like I said before, there's a blatant disregard for women. So this isn't an NCAA issue. I don't think the NCAA can really do anything in this case because there's really no precedent, no real precedent for it. For at Penn, like I said, with Penn State, it was an actual employee. It was a coach who was doing this, a former employee that was doing this, someone who had foundation still on Penn State, who I believe has his name on a building or a library there at Penn State. So this was an actual employee of the school. So you had probable cause to do something to them. But with this Baylor situation, it's not just the athletes, it's regular students. And it's not the coaches who are allowing this to happen. It's the president, it's the chancellor, it's the higher ups that you go to when you have an issue. That's who they're going to. And they're pushing it to the side. So this isn't an athletic issue to me. This is a legal issue. They're legally bound to report these incidents, and they're not doing it. So to me, this is a legal issue. This is not anything that NCAA can really do. Now, there's people calling for an NCAA to do things, but I feel like they don't really have a leg to stand on. And for them to do something, it wouldn't be genuine to me, because they're going to do like they always do. They're going to roll it back a year from now, and nothing's going to happen. So people will forget about it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that what you said about it being disingenuous is 100% true. I think the reason that I disagree that the NCAA shouldn't get involved, they can't control what's going on at the university. Like you said, it's insane that they haven't reported any rapes in 4 years, and I feel like the state should step in that in some way. There should be larger penalties because the school is a private school, but they're still on state ground. They're still paying rent to the state for the space. They're still in some way involved with the state. So there's some way the state can get involved with that, to my understanding. And I work at a college. I know how difficult it is to fire an employee. But given the gravity of the situation, I think it's worth the paperwork, it's worth the meeting, it's worth that process. And that's not to say they're not going through that process right now. But the reason that I feel like the NCAA should do something is because this bled over into athletics. The same way with UNC and the academic scandal, had they been able to prove that the coaches knew this was going on, they would have talked about vacating wins. Again, I'm not saying that Baylor needs to vacate wins because it should be bigger than that. It's not about how many games they won, but the fact of the matter is the coaching staff, whether it be Art Briles or all of the assistant coaches or just one of the assistant coaches, they knew what was going on. They were given a green light from somebody above them, but they still knew it was happening. And that's at some point the NCAA's got to take a stand on, if you're in agreement or you're playing under NCAA rules, that means that we are in some way going to be responsible for or hold you accountable for whether you're obeying school and state policy. Title IX is a big deal. The fact that they violated Title IX, that's not something that can be taken lightly. The same thing with Stanford. I mean, obviously they did report it. They've gone through the process, even though he was not really disciplined at all. Even in that, they're going through the process. Baylor not going through the process, I feel like NCAA has just as much of a responsibility to hold them accountable for that as the state does, as the government does. I work at UNC Wilmington here in North Carolina. We go through trainings when you get hired. We go through trainings every semester. If you're a Title IX coordinator, they make sure you understand how important this is. These coaches are going through that every semester. So you're talking about 4 years. They've done this 8 times where they've sat in a room and had people that tell them how important it is that you understand Title IX. What can happen if you don't? And at some point, the NCAA has to get involved in that and say, hey, you guys knew better. And you did this to create some kind of competitive advantage. These guys weren't holding this stuff because it was the cool thing to do. They're holding stuff because they want to keep these guys on the field. And going back to what you're saying about Art Briles, I think that if he does get fired, which I'm hoping he does, if he does get fired from Baylor, I don't know that he'll coach at another FBS school, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him at a mid-major school that's trying to capitalize off his offense. Some school, I mean, where is Larry Coker's at UTSA, a school like that that's starting a young program, wants a guy who can get some kind of name recognition and teach the program to create a culture. Because what he did at Baylor, regardless of this situation, was create a culture. There's always going to be teams, there's always going to be schools that want to have that culture that will call on him. And I agree with what you said about his son. His son's definitely going to get another job somewhere. He actually may end up being a head coach somewhere. I wouldn't be surprised if it's in Texas. But I don't think Baylor's done coaching. And I think that if he gets fired, sits out this year, and is coaching again in 2 or 3 years, that's a disservice not only to the people that were involved or that were wrong during this, but the people who just everyone in those last 4 years who've had their sexual misconduct not be reported. If I was a student right now, like a high school senior thinking about colleges, I don't know that I would consider Baylor. And if he doesn't get fired, for the next few years, that would stick with me. I don't think that, honestly, 4 or 5 years from now, kids considering colleges will ever even remember this. And that's honestly part of the problem. They know that, they know that we don't get rid of Art Briles right now. 3 years from now, middle school, what are middle schoolers now, they're not going to be looking at this case. Everything is on the internet. It never goes away, but it becomes less relevant as soon as the next big headline comes, like you said. So you can put breaking news here, but as soon as it's not breaking news, it's not news.
Right. Yeah, and that touches on a topic I was talking about earlier was controversial issues aren't as controversial as long anymore. Mm-hmm. Like that, we like when we were trying to set this up, this broadcast, we're talking about, man, we were in college not too long ago and we weren't even on YouTube. Right. We weren't watching YouTube religiously. We were rarely on it. But my kids, they're 7 and 8, and they watch YouTube nearly every day. Like it's a part of them growing up. And to me, with things like YouTube and Vines and Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, everything is talked about so fast. Everything changes so fast that you don't really spend time on issues as you used to do. Like this issue would take up the entire summer. If this happened just a decade ago, if this happened a decade ago, this would take up the entire summer there to be talking about this. But because we're in this time now where everything changes so fast, this by the end of the week, it was done. People weren't talking about it. And until Art Briles just came out and said he was going to sue the school for wrongful termination, no one was talking about it again, because we have this great NBA Finals going on. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about LeBron and his legacy. Let's talk about Golden State being 73-9 and potentially not winning the NBA Finals. That's everything. Just happens so fast. It's a revolving door of issues and stories happening now that people are trying to put out, that the time that needs to be spent on serious issues is just not going to happen. And that's a huge issue today because the attention span of people. Right. And go ahead.
And it's funny because I was thinking about that with Orlando. Not to make light of the situation, but it hasn't even been a week. The day after it happened, That was everything on my Facebook and my Instagram news feed was just Orlando. 2 days after that, 50%. Now you might have a couple posts about the shooter himself, but that's it. Like,
Right.
it's even been 2 weeks, and not to say people don't care, but people aren't talking about it. We haven't even had, funerals for all these people, and as a collective, we've moved on. So, from a sporting perspective, that's our thing to keep it on that. From a sporting perspective, it makes it really easy to just kind of, I can't think of the word I want to use, to just, go through the motions to make it seem like, oh, yeah, pretend to show contrition, and then go back like you talked about with Penn State, where you have your sanctions initially, and then you come back all of a sudden and you start restoring stuff. Paterno got some of his wins back. You didn't mention that, but I don't know if he got them all back, but they restored some of his wins. They got back scholarships. Kendall Marshall retweeted something the other day on Twitter that the UNC system has decided to keep Chapel Hill's accreditation, and they've removed a couple of the accusations from the whole academic scandal. So it's like you have this thing when it first comes out, it's a huge deal, but we jump to conclusions before anything even really gets figured out. By the time the investigations are done, the sentences are handed out, we've already forgotten about it.
Right.
5 years later, if you remember it at all, the majority of people that remember it don't remember all the facts. It's kind of funny. I was watching the Allen Iverson documentary, and towards the end, they were talking about the press conference that got the infamous practice quote.
Right.
And I remember watching that on SportsCenter, and here we are 10, 15 years later, and what I remember is what they showed on SportsCenter, the parts that got replayed, not even the whole interview, not the fact that every interview question before that was about practice, not about them losing in the first round of playoffs, not about him losing his best friend a week prior. I was watching that stuff, and here I am at 30, and I don't remember half of that.
Yeah, because that's not as juicy. That's not they want the juicy stuff. That's what people look for, especially today. I feel like the way things have gone, you want that controversy. You want to hear all that. You don't want to hear the facts. You don't want to hear what really happened in the case. You just want to hear the juicy, the headline. That headline, that's what they want. That ticker that goes on the bottom, ESPN, CNN, Fox, all those shows. That's what people want to see, and that's what they remember. They don't remember that Joe Paterno was told on a guy that he reported issues. People don't remember that, but they remember that he got his wins taken away. They remember that he got fired. But it's like people don't listen to all the facts, and like I said, bringing it back to sports, you can take that to anything in society around the world, really, and we're not going to listen to the facts because the lie is always better than the truth. It sells better.
Right. I mean, at the point where I stopped trying to correct people in the whole Paterno thing. Because I would always tell people, yeah, he could have done more, but legally he did what was required. And everyone would argue with me. I decided, you know what, it wasn't even worth it. Because like you said, everybody just wants that highlight. We want Twitter news where you can sum up an entire event, an entire case, an entire crime in 143 characters. But you can't tell the whole story in one tweet.
You can't. And that's how I felt with the Joe Paterno issue. I was like, well, it says in the report, read the report. He told the higher ups. He told who he was supposed to tell. Where it legally says, if your report, this is reported to you, you're supposed to go to this person, the athletic director. They go to the president. He told them. They did nothing. They kept their jobs. Joe Paterno did. And that's how it happens. There's always going to be a scapegoat because shit rolls downhill.
Yeah.
That's how it happens.
Yeah. And to me, with this Baylor situation, the scapegoat thing just shouldn't be enough. Like you said, 4 years of misconduct, man. One guy being suspended for a year, one guy being fired. That's not enough, man. Like, if everybody in a business is doing wrong and you fire a CEO and you replace him with a new guy, what are the odds that everybody is just going to act right now because one guy got fired?
We got a new CEO. Everybody get in line.
Right.
But what bothers me is Baylor didn't even do that. They promoted the defensive coordinator when the majority of the issues were coming from defensive players. People hear head coach and they think, okay, the head coach is in charge of everything. Like I said before, I played Division I ball. The head coach, you don't see the head coach that often. You see your position coach. You see your offensive coordinator. You see the special teams coach. You don't see the head coach isn't with you every day. So
right.
for Phil Bennett to be promoted, the defensive coordinator, when it's defensive players who are getting these allegations over and over and over again, who he's still fighting for. I mean, come on, man. You can't promote that guy and think that's going to be okay. And people and what bothers me is people were okay with that. Like, okay, they got Art Briles. Okay, you promote someone else. Okay, it's all right. They took the head guy out. Everyone else is going to fall in line. That's not how things happen. That's not reality.
Right.
But it worked because people were like, okay, they got rid of Riles. But they didn't. They just suspended him. You had prominent donors from Baylor talking about they want him back because they really, if you think about it, they don't have just cause to fire him. They can't fire him because if they could have fired him, he would be fired already. They can't fire him, which is why he was only suspended. And then I think it's like a $20 million buyout for them to fire him without cause. To get that money, they're going to have to go to the donors. And if the donors are the ones saying, and the alumni are the ones saying, well, we don't want him gone, where are you going to get that money from? You're stuck. And there's nothing they can do. And people were okay with that because he was no longer, because you got the headline that said Art Briles is no longer the head coach. Never mind that he's still there. And the people who were employed under him are still there. The culture is not going to change because everyone that was in place for him is still there. But
exactly,
people were okay with it.
Yeah, I think I did see they hired an interim coach. I think they didn't promote the defense. Yeah, Jim Grove. Who was at Wake Forest until 2013. But even with that, I feel like having a guy who's been out the game for so long, what is his agenda? Is he coming in there to be a disciplinarian? Is he the guy that you trust to right the ship? Or is he going to come in and say, hey, guys, I'm not going to rock the boat. Y'all know what's going on. I'm just going to be here. You know, what is his directive? What is his purpose here? What are the odds that he comes in and makes sure everybody does things the right way? You know, when you got a whole network of guys that know what's going on, have been doing this for years, there's going to be ways for them to go around Jim Grove and keep this ship sailing, you know, for lack of a better analogy.
Right.
And like you said, if everybody's still in place, what are we accomplishing here? All we're doing right now, even if we do find a way to fire Art Briles, is making the people who read headlines happy.
Yep. And that's all it's really about. Like, you just got to soothe that over. You're gonna have people who are gonna be against Baylor from now on. You're gonna have people who, no matter what happened, Art Briles could have raped somebody, and they would be like, "Well, you know, he's still a good guy." You're gonna have those two extremes, and no matter what the story is, you're gonna have those two extremes. It's the people in the middle that they're trying to appease right now by getting rid of the coach. They're trying to go the Miami Hurricanes route after their suspension. After they came down with all their allegations and NCAA came down on them, then you had a new coach come in after Dennis, and it was like, well, they're going to get him on a straight and narrow. They're going to get him right. These players are going to act right now. They're going to do things the right way. That's basically what they're doing, essentially what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get a coach in there for a year or two to smooth things over, and they're going to bring somebody else in. But the thing is, the reason why I don't think that's going to help is because it's Baylor. Like, no matter how you spin it, Baylor's never been good until Art Briles got there. They were a 500 school until Art Briles got there. Now they've got that taste of winning. And like most people, when you get a taste of winning, I mean, when you get a taste of being on the top, that's where you want to stay. So they're going to do whatever they can to try to stay there. And I just feel like it's going to be, in the long run, the people that are going to lose out are those women who were sexually assaulted, those women who were raped, because everything's going to go back to, well, let's get football. Everything was better when the football team was winning. We should go back and do things like that.
Right.
And that is how it goes, unfortunately. And I don't have a solution for that, because it's not a simple thing. It's not just something on Baylor's campus. It's something that happens nationally, globally, where people just have this blatant disregard for women.
Right. And I think a lot of people who are narrow-minded will sit and say the answer to this is the death penalty. But like you said, that still leaves you with the institutional issue. It still leaves you with the state issue. It still leaves you with the global issue. We have to find some way to really get to understand why sexual assault isn't a bigger deal, why we're not taking women's rights seriously. And that goes way beyond a sport. While I do think that the NCAA should do something, the death penalty is not going to be the answer. And placing all the focus on Baylor football and not on the university is not the answer either. We have to figure some way to hold the sport accountable, but also not let the school off the hook either. And right now, we're just not doing that.
Right. So I guess I sort of lean more towards your way now after talking it out, because before, for me, it was, well, reprimanding the football team really does nothing, because it wasn't the football team that was the issue. It's something that's happening throughout the campus. This isn't just an athletic issue. But I guess it goes back to, you can only control what you can control. NCAA can control the football team, so they can come down with suspensions and taking scholarships and bowl bans. They can do that to try to say that, well, we did something. We didn't stand by and let this happen. We did something. So I guess on one hand, I mean, you do have that, although I would still feel like it's just to pat themselves on the back so they can feel better about themselves.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with
that. At least it's something, I guess. It is not really a step in the right direction, but I guess it's not a step back. So I guess that's a slight win.
I think anything short of NCAA reps testifying in court would just be a pat on the back, just to be able to say we did something. But I don't know that it's going to get to that point. I mean, I'm assuming, I don't know legally where they are. I'd like to imagine somebody's going to sue the university.
Right.
And we'll really see then what happens.
And that's what I'm hoping too. I hope, like, it's hard to say, well, they should go at Baylor hard. They should really drive home this point on Baylor, because, like I said earlier, it's happening everywhere. And it's just a blatant disregard. But I feel like if they can at least make a point that we are at least attempting to stand up for women's rights, then I would feel better. I mean, not personally, okay, I feel better, but I feel like it would be a better thing to happen, instead of just, oh, well, you get 10 less scholarships next year, and we've done our thing now, so you can go ahead and do whatever. So it's hard. It's a tricky line right now for me, because I know there's a large faction of people who are thinking, like I said, that it's happening everywhere, so you can't just come down hard on Baylor. But at what point do you come down hard on somebody? Because if you don't come down on Baylor right now, then you can't come down on the next school where it happens, or the next school. So there has to be a stand where someone says, okay, now we're not taking this anymore. And I don't know who's going to do that, how they can do it.
I hate I hate the whole concept of, making an example of a program or player or sport, whatever the case may be. But like you said, it's got to start somewhere. So if Baylor has to be that sacrifice, so be it. I don't know if there is a state equivalent to, a death penalty for a college, and I wouldn't be advocating it. But, at some point, you got to figure out what can we do that is drastic enough to show the rest of the country that this is something we're taking seriously. I mean, I haven't reviewed as much of Title IX as I should. I probably shouldn't be saying that.
Anyone that see Williams, don't listen to that. Don't listen to that.
Right. That's joking. I'm joking. That's a joke. But I feel pretty confident that Title IX violations can lead to your whole thing being shut down.
Right. I think so. I don't work at a university or anything, so I don't have to know it in depth. But I believe that is the case, and I think the last I heard, that's what they're trying to go for. That's what they're going after, the violations of Title IX. So, but to drive home that point is, like I said, Stanford. There are reports coming out that the female swimmers felt weird and uncomfortable around Brock Turner for what he was doing, how he was acting around them, and they wanted to write letters. Like, there was a whole stories came out about his dad writing character letters for him and friends writing letters. They wanted to write letters to show that he always seemed something was off about him to them, and they were urged. Well, they say that they were urged from the university and the athletic director not to do that. Now, that I don't know how true that is. They could be making it up, but I'm one of the guys that's probably true. If you look at how sexual assaults are treated, how it's swept under the rug daily, I believe that's probably what that probably did happen, and that's scary that you have this issue going on with Baylor, where they haven't reported any incidents for 4 years, and then you have them denying, oh no, that wouldn't happen. We would say something. Every other school we would say something that this happened. Then you go to Stanford, which is another higher education, higher academia school, and you have a rape happening, and you have people saying, well, don't say anything bad about him. Just let this blow over. So, and that's just wrong, man. I wish I had a stronger word for it, but that's just wrong. And and having a daughter like that bothers me, that people just don't, that universally just do not care about women.
And the question to that, well, I guess my first thought is that the problem with having to self-report a lot of these things is that it has to get big before it goes beyond the university. So with the way the system is set up right now, I don't see a way to change it. As long as your compliance officer works in the Office of Athletics, as long as that compliance person has their own office, they got their own cubicle, you can walk stuff past them. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
While you have all these athletes who are constantly taught, the order of operation, they're always taught this pyramid. They're always taught, you got a problem, you go to this person. Until we find a way to break that, unfortunately, this kind of stuff is just going to keep happening. There's got to be some way to try to break beyond that. And I think that making compliance not just an athletics thing, trying to find some way to get it out of there, have it still be a part of the school, or even if you have compliance people be paid by the school, the state, NCAA, whatever, so they don't have that same stake in the university. Obviously, if you get paid to do compliance, you're under a certain obligation to do certain things correctly. But if you got the right people above you saying, hey, this ain't a big deal until it becomes a big deal, what are you going to do?
Right. I don't understand that either. To me, that's akin, having a compliance officer within the athletic department is the same as the police investigating the police brutality. Like, you're not gonna tell on yourself. You're not gonna tell on your brother. Like, people will say, well, you should, but how many people are really gonna tell on their brother? or their sister or someone they're close with, someone they live with every day. Majority of the time when something happens, people are like, well, I can't imagine this person. I see them every single day. They seem like a nice person. Seems like a nice person. I don't believe they would do something like that. So you're going to give them a benefit of the doubt. And until we have someone on the outside looking in without a vested interest in it within that program, you're going to get the same thing over and over. And it's going to always get swept under the rug because everybody wants that money.
Yeah. But that goes right back to the same question. You know, how seriously does the NCAA and do colleges take this situation? Are they going to be willing to invest the money into making the reforms that are necessary and then getting these people out of these offices and getting them into a position that makes more sense? You know, that's going to cost money. And do we really value justice over success at a time right now where we're having more success than we've ever had? You know, right now, NCAA is making more money than ever. You know, colleges, you know, the revenue sports are making more money than they ever have. Granted, a lot of it's going back to the program, and we won't get into that whole conversation. But the fact of the matter is, with TV stations, these conferences realigning, so on and so forth, money's everywhere. The money is absolutely everywhere. Do we really want to shut that off or take some of that away in order to start making things right? We should be, but what's the reality?
I agree, man. I agree 100%. Which is funny considering that when the topic came up, I was disagreeing with you. I didn't have a chance to just talk on it. We didn't have enough time, but I was like, man, I got something to say. I want to talk to him about it, and I didn't even get to. I was like, yeah, we could go back and forth on this all day. It's a hot button topic.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Just now, but just historically, it's a hot button topic. It's going on everywhere. You know, it's sad. It's sad.
It's sad that it's been a topic for as long as it has as well.
And there's no resolution for it.
Right.
I guess it's until people actually care. Well, not people, till the right people actually care, nothing's going to change.
Exactly. We got to get the folks that can actually do something about it to really stand up and say, all right, this ain't right. I can't say we, because I don't think we have that ability, but
yeah.
It'll take more politics to make that happen.
Yeah, we don't have that much power.
Yeah.
No, I got power to control mine. If something happens to any female in my family, you know, I got something coming for whoever does that. I can control that. So.
And that's as far as it goes now.
Yeah. As always, you know, great conversation going on. It was good to finally get this up and running and get this conversation going. We might have spent as much time trying to get this up and running as we spent talking about the topic. But for those of you who don't know, Alan you're 30 and I'm about to be 29 in 2 months. So we've been up here trying to figure out how to go live since I got home around 5:15 Central, probably about since 5:30 Central Time until 7 o'clock when we actually went live.
Yeah, it was good 35 minutes.
Trying to figure out how to go live.
We've been calling somebody else and everything.
Yeah, we actually. And it doesn't help that I'm in Texas and you're in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a struggle. But I'm glad we were able to get it going.
Yeah.
Turner, I don't know if you're watching or if you're going to see this, but we still had to get our debate going on about LeBron and his legacy and Steph Curry and all that good stuff.
There's no way it will take longer than that one. I can promise you that.
Oh yeah, we might need a couple days. To be here. A water break or something.
Don't need that 8-hour limit on that one.
But It's Leonard, Lynce, Alan Hinton. We're signing off. You can catch us, of course, every Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern. Agree to Disagree, Sports Politicking. You can catch us two, Turner, Purvis, Jay. You catch us all up there every Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern.
Thank y'all.
Got anything else to say before we go? We sign off.
That's it. I got just thanks for tuning in. Now that we got it figured out, one way or the other, we'll be there. Hopefully on time on Sunday.
Not CP time like this time. Just go right.
Right.
If we're this late again, Hillary Clinton might make a joke about us again.
Lord knows we can't have that.
All right, y'all have a good one.
Thank y'all.